AITA for refusing to take down my Halloween decorations that are scaring my neighbor's kids. I, 35, am a Halloween enthusiast. Every October, I transform my front yard into an elaborate display, nothing gory or ultra-realistic, just classic spooky stuff. This year, I have fog machines, animatronic zombies that rise from graves, motion-activated sound effects, and colored lighting. I spend about 3 weekends setting everything up, and the neighborhood kids love it. Parents bring their children specifically to see my house, and several neighbors have thanked me for making Halloween special. The problem is my new next-door neighbor, Karen, not her real name. She moved in this summer with her 3 kids, ages 4 to 8. Last week, she pounded on my door, demanding I take down my decorations because her children can't sleep and are having nightmares due to my inappropriate and violent display. I politely explained that Halloween decorations in October are perfectly normal, that nothing in my yard is violent or graphic, no blood, weapons, etc., and that I wouldn't be taking them down before Halloween. She then suggested I compromise by only having decorations up on Halloween night itself. When I refused, she started bringing her kids to my doorstep, encouraging them to tell me how scared they are and how they cry at night. Yesterday, she called the police claiming my decorations violated some ordinance. The officers came, looked around, and confirmed I'm not breaking any rules. Now she's gone to our HOA, which only has rules against decorations being up after holidays, and is rallying other parents on our neighborhood Facebook group. AITA for keeping my Halloween decorations up despite my neighbor's complaints about her scared children. I forgot to mention their bedrooms face the opposite direction from my house, so they can't even see my yard from their windows. They only see it if they specifically come outside and look.
AITA for sabotaging my sister's wedding after she forgot to invite my husband? I have always had a complicated relationship with my sister Jenna, 31F. Growing up, she was the golden child, perfect grades, popular, while I was always in her shadow. We drifted apart in adulthood, but maintained a civil relationship for our parents' sake. Last month, Jenna got engaged to her boyfriend of 2 years. My parents were thrilled. When I received the wedding invitation, I was shocked to see it was addressed only to me, not including my husband Mark, 30, of 5 years. I called Jenna to ask about it, and she casually said, "Oh, we're keeping it small, no plus ones." But later that week, I saw on social media that literally everyone else was bringing their partners, even people who'd been dating for just months. When I confronted her, she laughed and said, "Fine, I just don't want Mark there. He's too loud and would ruin the elegant vibe I'm going for." I was furious, but didn't say anything. Instead, 2 days before the wedding, I texted all the guests from her bachelorette group chat, I was excluded from that too, that the venue had changed due to flooding. I gave them the address of a restaurant 50 miles away. Half the guests, including bridesmaids, showed up at the wrong location. The ceremony was delayed by hours. Jenna was in tears, and the photographer had to leave for another booking. My parents found out what I did and are furious. My sister isn't speaking to me. Mark thinks it was genius, but my friends are divided. AITA for ruining my sister's special day after years of her treating me like garbage.
AITA for refusing to pay for dinner after my blind date admitted she tests men by ordering the most expensive items. I, 32M, haven't had much luck with dating apps, so when my coworker offered to set me up with her friend Alicia, 29F, I figured, why not? We agreed to meet at a nice restaurant downtown. Not super fancy, but definitely not cheap either. The date started well enough. Alicia was pretty and conversation flowed easily. Then came time to order. She immediately asked about the lobster, market price, ordered an expensive bottle of wine, $120, and added several high-end appetizers. I was a bit surprised, but didn't say anything. Midway through dinner, after her second glass of wine, she started laughing and admitted she always orders the most expensive items on first dates as a test to see if guys are financially stable and generous. She even bragged about how many men she's weeded out this way. I was stunned. When the check came, $347, I told her I'd pay for my portion, $42, but not hers. She immediately became angry, saying I was being cheap and that real men pay on first dates. I calmly explained that I have no problem paying for dates, but I won't be manipulated or tested. She started making a scene, so I left my portion of the bill in cash and walked out. Now she's blowing up my phone, calling me an asshole, and my coworker says I embarrassed her friend, but I feel like I was being used as part of some toxic game. AITA for refusing to fund her test?
AITA for stealing my neighbor's cat after finding out they weren't feeding it? I, 34F, moved into a new apartment building about 3 months ago. Since day one, I noticed this skinny orange tabby cat that would hang around my balcony. At first, I assumed it was a stray, so I started leaving out some food and water. The cat, I named him Cheeto, started coming by every day, and I noticed he was wearing a faded collar. One day while petting him, I realized I could feel every rib. He was severely underweight. I asked around and found out he belonged to my downstairs neighbor, 40SM. When I knocked on his door to talk about Cheeto, he seemed annoyed and said, "Oh yeah, that's Rusty. He's fine. Cats hunt for themselves anyway." I explained Cheeto/Rusty seemed malnourished, but he brushed me off, saying, "Cats are independent. He comes home when he wants." Over the next few weeks, Cheeto kept coming to my place looking worse. I started letting him inside, and he would literally inhale any food I gave him. I took him to a vet who confirmed he was malnourished and had fleas. Last week, I made the decision to just keep him inside my apartment. I bought him everything he needs, and he's already gaining weight and seems happier. Yesterday, my neighbor finally noticed and pounded on my door demanding his cat back. I refused and told him about the vet visit. He threatened to call the police for stealing his pet. My friends are split. Some say I did the right thing. Others say I should have called animal control instead of taking matters into my own hands. AITA for catnapping a pet that wasn't being cared for. AITA for telling my best friend's fiance about her secret OnlyFans account a week before their wedding. My 27F best friend Emma, 26F, and I have been inseparable since college. She met Ryan, 30M, 2 years ago, and they got engaged after just 8 months. Ryan's great, kind, successful, and completely devoted to Emma. Last month, I was using Emma's laptop to help design wedding invitations when a notification popped up from OnlyFans. Thinking it was spam, I clicked to close it, but it opened her account dashboard instead. I was shocked to discover she's been running a successful account for over a year, including throughout her relationship with Ryan. When I confronted her, she laughed it off, saying, "It's just extra money, and Ryan doesn't need to know everything." She revealed she makes thousands monthly and has no intention of stopping or telling Ryan. When I pressed about honesty in marriage, she said, "What he doesn't know won't hurt him." I struggled with this for weeks. 3 days ago, I finally told Ryan. I felt he deserved to know before legally binding himself to someone keeping significant secrets. He was devastated and has postponed the wedding. Now Emma is furious, calling me a jealous backstabber who ruined her life. Our friend group is divided. Half say I betrayed her trust, half say Ryan deserved the truth. Emma's parents, who I'm close with, have stopped speaking to me. AITA for telling my friend's fiancé about her secret life a week before they were supposed to get married.
AITA for refusing to let my pregnant sister move in after she kicked me out when I was homeless. 3 years ago, I, 29M, lost my job during company layoffs and couldn't afford rent. I asked my sister Chloe, 32F, if I could crash at her spare room for a few months until I found work. She flat out refused, saying she didn't want the stress and needed her space. I ended up sleeping in my car for 2 months before a friend helped me get back on my feet. I eventually landed a great tech job and now own a nice 3-bedroom house. Last week, Chloe called me in tears. Her husband left her for his coworker and she's 5 months pregnant. She can't afford their apartment alone and asked if she could move into my spare room until after the baby is born and she figures things out. I reminded her of how she refused to help me when I was literally homeless. She burst into tears saying that was different and I'm pregnant and your family. She claims I'm being vindictive and putting her and her unborn baby at risk. Our parents are furious with me, saying I need to be the bigger person and that family comes first. They keep bringing up that she's pregnant and vulnerable while I'm financially secure. They've called me heartless and said I'm holding on to petty grudges. I do have the space and I could easily afford to help her, but I can't forget how she left me to sleep in my car during one of the lowest points of my life. AITA for refusing to help my pregnant sister after she refused to help me when I needed it.
AITA for walking out of a restaurant after my date said my career was just a phase. I, 26F, am a software engineer at a tech company. I worked my ass off to get here, taught myself coding in high school, got a CS degree while working part-time, and landed this job after 3 grueling internships. I'm proud of what I've accomplished in a male-dominated field. Last night, I went on a first date with Jake, 28M, who I met through a mutual friend. At first, everything seemed great. He was attractive, could hold a conversation, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. When he asked about my job, I enthusiastically shared some projects I've been working on. His response? He smiled condescendingly and said, "That's cute, but don't worry. Most women go through this career phase before settling down to have kids." I was shocked and asked what he meant. He explained that it's biology and that deep down all women eventually prioritize family over career. He added that it was admirable I was keeping busy until I found the right guy to settle down with. Without saying a word, I signaled the waiter, paid for my drink, and walked out. He's been blowing up my phone, saying I overreacted and that he was just stating fact. Our mutual friend thinks I should have educated him instead of walking out, and that I'm being too sensitive about a simple misunderstanding. AITA for walking out instead of giving him a chance to understand why his comments were offensive. AITA for reporting my coworker to HR after he accidentally posted our private conversations in the company Slack. I, 31F, have been working at a marketing agency for 4 years. About 6 months ago, we hired Alex, 34M, who seemed nice enough, always joking around and creating a fun atmosphere. Last month, I went through a difficult breakup and was feeling pretty low. One day, Alex messaged me privately on Slack asking if I was okay. I opened up a bit about my situation, including some personal details about the breakup and my mental health struggles. He was sympathetic and offered advice, which I appreciated. Yesterday, I discovered Alex had somehow accidentally posted screenshots of our entire private conversation to the general channel where all 60-plus employees could see it. The post stayed up for almost 30 minutes before he deleted it, claiming it was a technical glitch and he was so sorry. By then, everyone had seen my personal problems laid bare. I was mortified and immediately went to HR to file a complaint. They're taking it seriously and launched an investigation. Now, Alex is telling everyone I'm overreacting to an honest mistake and ruining his reputation. Several coworkers are siding with him, saying I'm being vindictive and that everyone makes tech errors. He's even suggested I'm targeting him because he rejected my advances. Completely untrue, I've never been interested in him. My boss thinks I should have handled it privately with Alex first, but I don't believe posting multiple screenshots was any kind of accident. AITA for going straight to HR instead of accepting his apology. AITA for exposing my mom's secret family at my dad's funeral. My dad passed away last month after battling cancer for 2 years. He was my hero, hardworking, kind, and devoted to our family. My mom, 52F, and dad, 54M, were married for 30 years, and I, 28F, am their only child. The day before the funeral, I was going through Dad's email to find contact information for distant relatives. That's when I discovered dozens of emails between Dad and a woman named Lydia. As I read through them, my world collapsed. Dad had been supporting Lydia and 2 children, ages 8 and 10, for years. The emails confirmed these were his biological children. The emails revealed my mom has known about this second family for at least 7 years. She and Dad had some arrangement where he could visit his other family as long as he maintained our lifestyle and kept it secret. At the funeral reception, my mom gave this beautiful speech about loyalty and devotion. Something in me snapped. I stood up and announced to everyone about Dad's secret family and how Mom had helped hide it all these years. The room went completely silent. Mom collapsed in tears. My aunts and uncles were horrified. Mom's parents immediately left. I walked out and haven't spoken to my mom since. She's been calling nonstop, saying I've ruined her life and reputation. She claims she only agreed to the arrangement to keep our family together, and that I had no right to expose this at Dad's funeral. My boyfriend thinks I went too far, but I feel like my entire life was built on lies. AITA for exposing this secret at my dad's funeral?
AITA for stealing my brother's college fund after finding out my parents lied to me my whole life? I grew up believing college wasn't an option for me. My parents always told me there was no money for it and I needed to focus on trade school or the military. Meanwhile, my younger brother Jake, 19M, was told from childhood that he'd go to college, no question. I joined the Army at 18, did my 4 years, and now work as a mechanic. I live paycheck to paycheck, but manage. Jake just graduated high school with average grades and is headed to an expensive private university this fall. Last week, I was helping my parents clean out their attic when I found financial documents showing they had 2 college funds, one for Jake, $120K, and one for me, $110K. Both started when we were born. Mine was untouched. When I confronted them, they broke down and admitted the truth. They never wanted me to leave our small town. They thought if I went to college, I'd move away permanently. They said they were saving my college fund as an inheritance. I was devastated. I could have gotten an engineering degree instead of going to war. I contacted the bank and learned I'm the beneficiary of my fund once I turned 18. Yesterday, I withdrew all of it. I told my parents I'm using it to go to college now, at 24. My parents are furious, saying that money is now supposed to go to Jake since I chose the military. Jake is texting me constantly about stealing his future. Extended family is split, with many saying I should think about Jake's future instead of my selfish revenge. AITA for taking my college fund to actually go to college. AITA for refusing to pay my ex-girlfriend's tuition after catching her cheating on me. I, 26M, was with my girlfriend Mia, 24F, for 3 years. We met in college where I was finishing my degree and she was a sophomore. After graduation, I landed a great job in finance while Mia continued her studies. Last year, Mia was struggling financially. Her parents couldn't help much, and she was working part-time while maintaining a full course load. She was stressed about potentially dropping out, so I offered to pay her remaining tuition, $18,000/year, for her final 2 years. She was incredibly grateful, and we agreed she'd focus on school without worrying about repayment. 2 weeks ago, I came home early from a business trip and found Mia in our bed with her study partner Ryan. When confronted, she broke down crying, admitting the affair had been going on for 4 months. I ended our relationship immediately and asked her to move out. Yesterday, I received an email from the university's billing department about the upcoming tuition payment. I called Mia to let her know I wouldn't be making any more payments. She became hysterical, saying I couldn't do this because she had planned her future around my promise and would have to drop out with only 3 semesters left. Her parents called me selfish, saying that despite our personal issues, I should honor my commitment. Her sister posted about me on social media, calling me a vindictive asshole who's destroying a woman's education over a mistake. My own parents think I should pay the remaining tuition since I had committed to it, but my friends say I have no obligation after what she did. AITA for withdrawing financial support after finding out she cheated? AITA for making my stepdaughter's boyfriend sleep on the couch after they missed curfew? My stepdaughter Lily, 17, has been living with me, 42M, full-time since her mother, my wife, passed away 3 years ago. Though I'm not her biological father, I've raised her since she was 5 and we have a good relationship. Recently, Lily started dating Tyler, 18M. He seems like a decent kid, respectful, good grades, has a part-time job. I established one main rule: when they go out, they need to be home by 11 p.m. on weekends. Last Friday, they went to a concert. At 11:30 p.m., I texted Lily asking where they were. No response. By 1 a.m., I was worried sick and called multiple times. They finally showed up at 2:30 a.m. claiming their phones died and the concert ran late. I was relieved but angry. The venue was only 30 minutes away and the concert ended at 11 p.m. I checked online. When I pointed this out, Lily admitted they'd gone to a friend's house afterward. Since it was late and Tyler lives 40 minutes away, I said he could stay but would have to sleep on the couch in the living room. They both protested, with Lily saying I was treating them like children and that Tyler should be allowed to sleep in her room because it's not like we weren't already together all night. I held firm. Tyler slept on the couch and Lily barely spoke to me all weekend. She's now saying I embarrassed her and don't trust her. My sister thinks I overreacted and says this will just encourage Lily to lie more in the future. AITA for making her boyfriend sleep on the couch after they broke curfew?
AITA for refusing to be my cousin's free wedding photographer after she made fun of my business? I am a professional photographer who specializes in weddings. I've spent years building my business, investing in high-end equipment, and establishing a strong reputation. My rates are standard for my area and experience level. My cousin Emma, 27F, recently got engaged and is planning her wedding for next summer. At a family dinner last month, she casually mentioned that she'd be saving thousands because I'd be doing her photography for free. This was the first I'd heard of it. I politely explained that while I'd love to give her a family discount, 25% off, I couldn't do it for free as photography is my livelihood. Emma laughed and said, "Come on, it's just pointing a camera and clicking a button. Anyone could do it. I'm giving you free food and booze anyway." When I maintained my position, she started telling everyone at the table that my prices were highway robbery and that nowadays anyone with an iPhone can take wedding photos. She even pulled out her phone to show examples of her friends' Instagram photos as proof that professional photography is a scam. I stayed calm and offered either my discounted rate or to help her find another photographer in her budget. She stormed off, calling me selfish. Now, my aunt, her mom, is calling daily, saying I'm tearing the family apart over money and that real family helps each other. My parents think I should just do it for free to keep the peace. AITA for refusing to provide free professional services to a family member who openly disrespected my career. AITA for refusing to share my lottery winnings with my husband after he called it stupid for years. Every Friday for the past 12 years, I, 38F, have bought a $5 lottery ticket. My husband Tom, 48M, has always mocked this habit, calling it my stupidity tax, and calculating how much money I've wasted over the years, about $3,120. Whenever I defended my small weekly splurge, he'd lecture me about probability and financial responsibility, despite the fact that I've always paid my share of expenses, have no debt, and we keep separate accounts for discretionary spending. Last month, the unbelievable happened. I won $1,600,000, about $850K after taxes. When I showed Tom the winning ticket, he went from disbelief to immediately talking about our money and how we could finally pay off our mortgage. I reminded him that he's spent 12 years ridiculing my lottery tickets, calling me financially irresponsible, and even showing me mathematical proofs of why I was throwing money away. He said that was different, and what's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. I've decided to keep the winnings in a separate account. I'm using it to pay off my student loans, set up college funds for our kids, take a modest family vacation, and invest the rest for retirement. I'm not being extravagant or selfish. Tom is furious, saying it's community property, we live in a separate property state, and I'm being vindictive. His parents and brother have been texting me about how marriage is a partnership, and I'm being petty over old jokes. AITA for not sharing my winnings with someone who spent over a decade mocking my stupid habit. AITA for excluding my parents from my wedding after they refused to meet my fiancé for 3 years. I, 28F, grew up in a very traditional Asian American household. My parents always expected me to marry someone from our culture, preferably someone they approved of or even arranged for me. When I met Alex, 30M, in grad school 4 years ago, I knew he was the one. He's thoughtful, brilliant, and treats me with more respect than any man I've ever dated. The problem? He's white, and my parents refused to even meet him. For 3 years, I tried everything. I sent them photos, told them stories about him, explained how happy he makes me. They responded by ignoring his existence or changing the subject. When we got engaged last year, they told me I was betraying my heritage and breaking their hearts. I gave them an ultimatum: meet Alex or don't come to the wedding. They chose the latter. Our wedding is next month, and invitations went out without including my parents. Now they're suddenly reaching out, saying they've reconsidered and want to be part of my special day. However, they still haven't asked to meet Alex, haven't apologized for their behavior, and my mom keeps making comments about how it's not too late to find a nice boy from our community. I told them it's too late, the arrangements are final, and I don't want their negative energy at our celebration. My extended family is divided. Some understand my position, while others are calling me cruel for depriving my parents of seeing their only daughter get married. AITA for excluding my parents from my wedding after years of them refusing to accept my relationship.
AITA for refusing to give my sister the password to our dad's crypto wallet after she cut contact with him before he died. I, 29M, lost my dad to a heart attack 3 months ago. He was a tech enthusiast who got into cryptocurrency early and amassed a significant portfolio worth around $3,200,000. Before he died, he gave me detailed instructions to access his wallets, including passwords and recovery phrases. My sister Jen, 34F, cut contact with Dad 5 years ago after a massive argument about her husband, who Dad never approved of. She blocked Dad on everything and returned all his letters unopened. Dad tried to reconcile multiple times, even showing up at her house once, but she refused to speak to him. When Dad was in the hospital during his final days, I called Jen to let her know. She said, "I don't care," and hung up. She didn't attend the funeral or reach out afterwards. Last week, Jen called me out of the blue asking about Dad's crypto. Apparently, she heard about it from a mutual cousin. She demanded I give her her half of the inheritance. When I explained Dad left specific instructions that everything goes to me, she went ballistic. Now she's threatening legal action, claiming she's entitled to half regardless of their relationship status. She's telling everyone I'm stealing her inheritance and has turned most of our extended family against me. I've consulted a lawyer who says Dad's instructions are legally ambiguous, since there's no formal will, just the passwords he entrusted to me. AITA for keeping the cryptocurrency to myself after my sister wanted nothing to do with our father while he was alive. AITA for kicking my brother and his family out after they demanded I remove photos of my dead wife. 3 months ago, my house burned down. My brother Mark, 38M, offered to let me, 36M, stay with his family while I rebuild. I was grateful and moved into their guest room with the few possessions I managed to save. Mainly photo albums containing pictures of my late wife, Emma, who died of cancer 2 years ago. I set up a small memorial shelf in my room with Emma's photos, her favorite book, and the necklace I gave her on our first anniversary. It's private, in my space, and gives me comfort during this difficult time. Last week, Mark's wife, Carrie, 35F, asked me to put away the photos because their 6-year-old daughter keeps asking questions about the pretty lady and why Uncle seems sad. I politely declined, explaining these mementos are precious to me, especially after losing nearly everything in the fire. Yesterday, I came home to find my shelf completely cleared off. When I confronted them, Mark said they did me a favor because I need to move on, and my shrine was creeping out there.
AITA for refusing to cover my sister's shift for her wedding anniversary when she never covered for my son's birthday. I, 34F, work at the same hospital as my sister Dana, 38F. We're both nurses, but in different departments. I'm in pediatrics, she's in the ER. Our hospital is chronically understaffed, so getting time off can be challenging. 2 years ago, my son's 8th birthday fell on a Saturday when I was scheduled to work. I begged Dana to switch shifts with me since she wasn't scheduled. She flat out refused, saying she had plans with friends that couldn't be changed. I missed my son's entire birthday celebration, and he was devastated. Last week, Dana asked me to cover her shift this Saturday because it's her 10th wedding anniversary and she wants to surprise her husband with a weekend getaway. When I hesitated, she said, "That's what family does, we help each other out." I reminded her about my son's birthday 2 years ago. She rolled her eyes and said, "Are you seriously still holding a grudge about that? It was just a kid's birthday." My anniversary is a milestone. I declined to cover her shift. Now she's furious, telling everyone I'm petty and vindictive. Our parents are insisting I should be the bigger person, and that 2 wrongs don't make a right. My husband thinks I'm justified, but some coworkers are saying I should have just covered for her since anniversary trips are planned months in advance. AITA for refusing to help my sister after she wouldn't do the same for me. AITA for banning my mother-in-law from seeing my newborn after she deliberately violated our only parenting rule. My husband, 32M, and I, 30F, just welcomed our first child 3 weeks ago. During my pregnancy, we made one specific request clear to all family members. Please don't post photos of our baby on social media. We have valid privacy concerns and wanted control over our child's digital footprint. Everyone agreed, including my mother-in-law, though she made several comments about how we were being paranoid and depriving relatives of seeing the baby grow up. The day after our daughter was born, we allowed family to visit at the hospital. My mother-in-law took many photos, which was fine with us. However, 6 hours later, a friend texted congratulating me on the beautiful Facebook album my mother-in-law had posted, containing 43 photos of our daughter, including some of me looking exhausted right after delivery. When confronted, my mother-in-law brushed it off, saying, "Everyone posts baby pictures these days, and I have rights as a grandmother." She refused to take them down, so my husband reported the album and Facebook removed it. Now, I've told my mother-in-law she isn't welcome to visit until she acknowledges what she did was wrong and promises to respect our boundaries. My husband supports me, but his siblings say I'm being cruel by keeping a grandmother from her grandchild over just some photos. My parents think I'm right to stand firm, but some friends suggest I'm being too harsh during what should be a joyful family time. AITA for restricting access to our baby when our only rule was deliberately broken.
AITA for changing the Netflix password after finding out my roommates were charging others to use my account. I, 25M, live with 2 roommates, Chris and Mike, both 26M. When we moved in together a year ago, I offered to share my Netflix account since I've had it for years and didn't mind them using it. Last week, I was grabbing beers with some mutual friends when one of them, Kyle, thanked me for the Netflix hookup. Confused, I asked what he meant. He explained that Chris and Mike had been charging people $5 a month to use our Netflix account. Apparently, they had at least 8 people paying them. I was shocked. Not only were they risking my account getting flagged for unusual activity, but they were making around $80 monthly profit off my $15 subscription without telling me. When I confronted them, they laughed it off as just a side hustle and offered to cut me in on the profits. I told them this wasn't okay, and I changed my password that night. They're furious, claiming I'm being petty over just a few bucks and that I agreed to share the account. They've told our friend group I'm being stingy and controlling. I've offered to keep sharing with just them if they apologize and stop their business, but they're refusing, saying they were providing a service and I'm ruining things for everyone. AITA for cutting off access when I found out my roommates were profiting off my subscription without my knowledge. AITA for refusing to take down my security cameras after my neighbors complained about their privacy. Last year, after a string of break-ins in our neighborhood, I-42M installed 4 security cameras around my property, one at the front door, one at the back door, one overlooking my driveway, and one monitoring my backyard and pool area. All cameras are clearly visible and only record my property. 2 weeks ago, my next-door neighbors, 50 years old, male and female, who moved in about 3 months ago, came over looking upset. They demanded I remove my cameras because they're invasive and violate their privacy. They claimed the side camera pointing at my pool can partially see into their yard when they're grilling or using their patio. I checked the footage, and while you can see a small corner of their yard at the edge of the frame, it's maybe 6 square feet of their property and not where they typically hang out. You certainly can't see inside their house or main outdoor living areas. I offered to adjust the camera angle slightly but explained I wouldn't remove the system that protects my home and family. They stormed off, clearly unsatisfied. Yesterday, I received a certified letter from their lawyer claiming emotional distress and threatening legal action if I don't remove all cameras within 10 days. They've also started a neighborhood petition claiming I'm spying on everyone. My wife thinks I should just remove the pool camera to keep the peace, but I believe we have every right to secure our property. I've consulted my own lawyer who confirmed I'm completely within my rights. AITA for refusing to take down security cameras that primarily fill my own property.
AITA for serving meat at my wedding after my vegan sister-in-law tried to hijack my menu planning. I, 28 female, am getting married next month to my fiancé James, 30 male. We've been planning a medium-sized wedding, 90 guests, and have been saving for nearly 2 years to make it special. When it came to menu planning, we decided on a choice of chicken, steak, or salmon with standard vegetarian options available upon request. My fiance's sister Emma, 34F, has been vegan for about 18 months and is extremely vocal about it. During our tasting, Emma, who wasn't invited but showed up anyway, made a scene about how we were supporting animal cruelty with our menu choices. She demanded we make the entire wedding vegan, claiming it would be more inclusive and ethically responsible. I politely explained we'd ensure there was a vegan option for her, but our other guests would have choices. She said this wasn't good enough and started texting family members, asking them to pledge to choose the vegan option, to send a message. Things escalated when she created a Facebook group called My Name's Cruel Wedding Menu and invited mutual friends, posting graphic slaughterhouse videos and tagging me. My fiancé asked her to stop, but she refused. We've now decided to keep our original menu, but have removed Emma from our guest list. My fiancé supports this decision, but his parents are begging us to reconsider, saying she's just passionate and family should come first. AITA for serving meat at my wedding and uninviting my sister-in-law after she tried to shame us online. AITA for refusing to let my in-laws meet our baby after they threatened to fix his curse. I, 34F, gave birth to my beautiful son 3 weeks ago. He was born with a large birthmark covering half his face, which my husband, 36M, and I see as just part of what makes him unique and perfect. When my in-laws visited the hospital, they had a complete meltdown. My mother-in-law burst into tears, saying the baby was cursed and needed to be cleansed. My father-in-law started talking about some family healer who could fix him through some ritual involving burning herbs and special oils directly on my newborn's face. I told them absolutely not, and that if they couldn't accept our son as he is, they wouldn't be welcome around him. My husband backed me up initially, but after days of relentless calls and messages from his family about how we're dooming our child to a life of suffering, he's starting to waver. They've been telling extended family that we're neglecting our son's spiritual health, and now I'm getting messages from relatives I've never even met. My mother-in-law sent a package with oils and instructions for the ritual yesterday, and I lost it. I told my husband they're completely cut off until they apologize and promise to drop this nonsense. My husband thinks I'm overreacting and says his parents are just concerned and come from a different cultural background where these beliefs are normal. He wants to let them visit if they promise not to bring up the cleansing during the visit, but I don't trust them around our baby at all. AITA for refusing to let my in-laws see their grandson until they fully accept him as he is. AITA for stealing my sister's wedding date after she abandoned her fiancé at the altar. 2 months ago, my sister Melissa, 29F, was supposed to marry her fiancé Ryan, 31M. They had been planning their dream wedding for over a year, gorgeous venue, perfect date in June at this historic garden that books 18 months in advance, everything. On the wedding day, Melissa never showed up. No warning, no explanation, she just disappeared the night before, leaving only a text to Ryan saying she couldn't go through with it. She turned off her phone and flew to Bali, posting beach selfies 3 days later. Ryan was absolutely devastated. He and I have always been close. We were friends before he met my sister, and I helped him deal with the aftermath, canceling vendors, returning gifts, explaining to guests. During this time, we realized we had feelings for each other. Yes, it sounds crazy, but we've actually been in love for years and never acted on it out of respect for my sister. Fast forward to now. Ryan and I want to get married, and the venue still has their date available since it was so close to the original wedding date. We've lost all the deposits, and it's literally the only opening they have for the next 2 years. Melissa just returned from her month-long finding herself trip and went nuclear when she found out. She's telling everyone I stole her wedding and her man, even though she left him. Our parents are divided. Dad supports us, but Mom thinks I betrayed my sister. AITA for using my sister's wedding date and venue after she abandoned her fiancé, now my fiancé. AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding because my boyfriend isn't invited. My 27F brother, 32M, is getting married in 3 months to his fiancée, Emma, 30F. We've never been super close, but we've always been on good terms. Yesterday, I received their wedding invitation addressed only to me, not me and my boyfriend Jake, 29M. Jake and I have been together for 7 years and living together for 5. He's been to every family holiday and event since we started dating. When I called my brother to ask about the oversight, he awkwardly explained that Emma doesn't want Jake at the wedding because of an incident that happened 2 years ago. At a family barbecue, Jake got into a heated political argument with Emma's father that ended with Jake calling him a danger to democracy and walking out. Jake apologized the next day, but apparently Emma's father is still upset about it. I reminded my brother that Emma's sister's boyfriend of only 8 months is invited and pointed out that excluding a long-term partner is typically considered rude. He just said, "It's our wedding, our rules." I told him I won't be attending without Jake. Now my parents are blowing up my phone saying I'm being selfish and should just come alone to keep the peace. Jake says he understands if I go without him, but I feel like this is a matter of principle. AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding because my long-term boyfriend isn't invited over a political argument from 2 years ago.
AHA for destroying my neighbor's $3,000 drone that kept hovering outside my teenage daughter's window. I, 42, live with my wife and our 15-year-old daughter in a suburban neighborhood. About 6 months ago, a new neighbor, Kevin, 30, moved in next door. He seemed nice enough at first, always talking about his tech job and drone photography hobby. 3 weeks ago, my daughter told me she kept seeing a drone hovering outside her second-floor bedroom window, usually when she was changing or getting ready for bed. I immediately suspected our drone-obsessed neighbor. I went over to Kevin's house that same day and politely asked him to stop flying his drone near our windows, explaining my concerns about my daughter's privacy. He laughed it off, claiming he was just practicing maneuvers and that I was being paranoid. He said his drone's camera wasn't even recording, which I didn't believe for a second. The next day, the drone was back. I went over again, this time less politely. Kevin got defensive, saying he had every right to fly in the airspace over his property, and that if the drone occasionally drifted over to our side, it wasn't intentional. Yesterday, I caught the drone hovering directly outside my daughter's window again. I could literally see the camera lens aimed into her room. I lost it. I grabbed my baseball bat, went into our yard, and the next time it flew low enough, I swung and smashed it to pieces. Kevin came storming over, screaming that I had destroyed his $3,000 drone and that he'd be calling the police and suing me. My wife thinks I overreacted and should have called the police instead of taking matters into my own hands. AITA for destroying the drone that was invading my teenage daughter's privacy?
AITA for reporting my coworker to HR after she kept correcting my accent? I, 28F, moved to the US from Colombia 5 years ago. While my English is fluent, I still have a noticeable accent. I recently started a new job at a marketing firm and everything was going well until Jessica, 34F, joined our team 3 months ago. From day one, Jessica has appointed herself as my personal pronunciation coach. She interrupts me mid-sentence during meetings to correct words I supposedly mispronounce. She'll say things like, "It's vendor, not vendor," or "You're saying the cis wrong, it's the cis," often when I'm actually saying it correctly. Last week during a team presentation, I was explaining our campaign strategy when Jessica interrupted me 5 times to fix my pronunciation. My boss looked uncomfortable but didn't say anything. Afterward, 3 colleagues separately told me they thought Jessica's behavior was inappropriate. I tried addressing it privately, telling Jessica that while I appreciate feedback, her constant corrections during meetings make me feel undermined and embarrassed. She responded that she's just trying to help because clients might not understand me, and that I should be grateful for free English lessons. Yesterday, during a client call, she actually muted me and told the client, "Let me translate what she's trying to say." The client looked confused and said they understood me perfectly. I finally went to HR and filed a complaint. Now Jessica is telling everyone I'm too sensitive and playing the race card when she was just being helpful. Some colleagues think I should have tried harder to resolve it personally before involving HR. AIT for reporting my coworkers' corrections to HR instead of continuing to deal with it myself. AITA for refusing to donate my kidney to save my estranged father who abandoned me as a child. I, 29 female, was raised by my grandparents after my father walked out when I was 3. He never paid child support, never called on birthdays, and basically pretended I didn't exist while he started a new family with his second wife. 2 weeks ago, I got a call from a woman who introduced herself as my half-sister, 24F. We've never spoken before. She explained that our father, 52M, is in end-stage renal failure and desperately needs a kidney transplant. Apparently, she's not a match, nor are any other family members they've tested. When they ran out of options, my father finally remembered he had another daughter. My half-sister begged me to get tested, saying our father might only have months to live without a transplant. I refused. I told her that our father made his choice 26 years ago when he decided I wasn't worth his time, money, or love. I don't owe him my kidney or anything else. She broke down crying, saying people make mistakes and that he's changed, that he regrets abandoning me, and that he's been a good father to her. She asked if I could live with myself knowing I could have saved his life but chose not to. My grandparents who raised me think I should at least meet him before making a final decision. My husband supports whatever I choose, but gently suggested that donating might give me closure. But I feel like my father only sees me as a spare parts factory, not a daughter. AITA for refusing to donate my kidney to the father who abandoned me. AITA for revealing my boss has been taking credit for my work after he refused to give me time off for my wedding. I, 32F, have been working as a graphic designer at a marketing agency for 3 years. My boss, Mark, 45M, has a reputation for being brilliant. But I discovered early on that he's actually technologically incompetent and relies on his team to do the real work. For the past 2 years, I've been designing all the major campaign materials that have won our agency several industry awards. Mark takes full credit, even doing interviews about his creative process while I sit silently in the background. I put up with it because the job pays well and looks good on my resume. Last month, I requested 2 weeks off from my wedding and honeymoon, giving 3 months' notice. Mark denied my request, saying we have a major client presentation the same week and that I'm essential. When I pointed out that he should be able to handle it, since he's supposedly the creative genius behind all our work, he got angry and threatened to fire me if I pushed the issue. Yesterday, during a big client meeting with C-suite executives from a Fortune 500 company, the CMO specifically asked about the design approach for their campaign. Mark started his usual spiel about his vision when I finally snapped. I politely interjected and walked the clients through my entire creative process, showing earlier drafts from my personal portfolio that clearly proved I was the actual creator. The room went silent. Mark was fuming. The clients were impressed with my work, but clearly uncomfortable about the situation. Now half my coworkers are saying I'm their hero, while the other half think I committed career suicide. Mark is threatening to sue me for intellectual property theft, even though everything I showed was my own work. AITA for exposing my boss's fraud after he wouldn't give me time off for my wedding. AITA for embarrassing my daughter by continuing to use a wheelchair at her school events when I don't need it all the time. I, 41F, have a progressive autoimmune condition that affects my mobility. On good days, I can walk short distances with a cane. On bad days, I need my wheelchair. There's no way to predict which kind of day I'll have, and pushing too hard on good days often triggers severe flares that leave me bedridden. My daughter Emma, 16F, is a high achiever at her prestigious private school. Recently, she's been asking me to try harder to walk at her school events. Last week, before a debate competition, she literally begged me not to bring my wheelchair, saying the clicking sound of my cane was less embarrassing. I've always used my wheelchair for events like this because they involve long periods of sitting in uncomfortable chairs, walking across campus, and standing during receptions, all things that could trigger a flare-up. I explained this to Emma, but she got upset and said none of her friends' parents have issues, and that people stare at us. I went in my wheelchair anyway. During the reception, Emma's debate coach complimented her performance, and I expressed how proud I was. Emma later told me she was humiliated because I made everything about my disability and that I could have made an effort just once, since I'm obviously capable of walking sometimes. My husband thinks I should have used my cane as a compromise to make our daughter comfortable, saying teenage years are hard enough without feeling different. But I don't think I should risk my health or perpetuate the harmful idea that disabled people should hurt themselves to make others comfortable. AITA for using my wheelchair at my daughter's school event when she wanted me to walk instead. AITA for refusing to cook a separate meal for my sister-in-law at Thanksgiving after she changed her dietary restrictions for the 5th time. I, 34F, have hosted Thanksgiving for my husband's family for the past 6 years. I'm a good cook and enjoy putting together a traditional spread with some creative touches. My sister-in-law Claire, 30F, has gone through numerous dietary phases over the years. 2 years ago, she was keto. Last year, she was paleo. 3 months ago, she was plant-based. And last month, she announced she was going raw vegan. Each time, I've accommodated her by making special dishes she could eat alongside our regular meal. It takes extra time and money, but I've always felt it was important that everyone enjoys the holiday. Yesterday, just 1 week before Thanksgiving, Claire called to inform me that she's now following an AIR diet, which apparently means she can only eat white-colored foods that haven't been processed or cooked over 118 degrees. She sent me a list of requirements that would basically require me to prepare an entirely separate meal for her. I finally snapped and told her I wouldn't be doing this anymore. I said she's welcome to bring her own food that meets her latest restrictions, but I'm not adding another complete menu to my already packed cooking schedule. Claire accused me of being unwelcoming and trying to starve her at Thanksgiving. My mother-in-law called saying I should just make the effort because it's only once a year. My husband supports me but says maybe I could make just one simple dish Claire can eat. AITA for refusing to cook a separate Thanksgiving meal for my sister-in-law after she changed her dietary restrictions again.
AITA for walking out of a restaurant after they tried to charge me $45 for ice cream I didn't order. Last night, I took my girlfriend, 27, to a nice Italian restaurant downtown for our anniversary. We had a reservation, the service was decent, and the food was good. After dinner, our waiter asked if we wanted dessert. We declined because we were planning to get ice cream at our favorite shop afterward. The waiter seemed a bit pushy, saying their tiramisu was world famous, but we politely declined again. When the bill came, I noticed a $45 charge for chef's special tableside gelato experience. I called the waiter over and explained we never ordered dessert. He He smirked and pointed to the corner of the dining room, where a chef had apparently been preparing some elaborate ice cream display with fire and liquid nitrogen that I hadn't even noticed. "That's our complimentary tableside dessert presentation," he said. "All guests receive the experience." I pointed out that you can't call something complimentary and then charge $45 for it. He insisted it was standard practice at fine dining establishments and that we should have known when we made a reservation. I asked to speak to the manager, who backed up the waiter and said I was obligated to pay since we enjoyed the ambiance created by the dessert experience, even if we didn't eat any. I refused to pay for food we didn't order and certainly didn't eat. After a heated argument, I paid for our actual meal in cash, left a normal tip, and we walked out. Now the restaurant is calling and threatening to report me to collections over the $45 dessert experience fee. AITA for refusing to pay for a dessert experience I never ordered.
AITA for buying my son the same backpack as the school bully. My son, Charlie, 9, has been having a tough time at school. There's a kid, Tyler, who's been tormenting Charlie and other kids for months. The school has been working on it, but nothing has really changed. Last week, Charlie told me Tyler brags about his exclusive Lightning Racers backpack that apparently costs $200 and is limited edition. Tyler tells the other kids they're poor losers for not having one and won't let anyone even touch it. While shopping online, I happened to find the same backpack on clearance for $50. Without thinking too much about it, I bought it for Charlie as a surprise, thinking he'd be excited to have something cool that he wanted. When Charlie saw it, he was thrilled and couldn't wait to use it. His first day back with the new backpack, Tyler apparently had a complete meltdown in class when he saw Charlie with the same bag. He accused Charlie of buying a fake, and when Charlie showed it was authentic, Tyler had a tantrum so bad he had to be removed from class. Now, Tyler's mom is blowing up my phone, saying I deliberately tried to upset her son knowing he has emotional regulation issues, and that the backpack was the one special thing that made him feel confident. She's demanding I return Charlie's backpack and buy him something else because her son can't handle seeing someone with the same item. The school counselor called, suggesting I consider the request to help both boys move forward positively. My husband thinks it's hilarious that the bully got a taste of his own medicine, but I'm feeling a little guilty. AITA for buying my son the same backpack as the bully who's been tormenting him.
AITA for telling my fiancé I won't include her 7-year-old daughter in our wedding ceremony. I, 32M, am getting married to my fiancée Melissa, 30F, in 3 months. Melissa has a daughter, Lily, 7F, from her previous marriage. Lily's father is still involved in her life with 50/50 custody. When we started planning our wedding, Melissa immediately assumed Lily would be heavily involved in the ceremony, not just as a flower girl, but with her own vows, where my fiancé and I would both pledge ourselves to Lily, a special family medallion ceremony, and Lily joining us for the first dance and cutting the cake. I love Lily, but I expressed to Melissa that I want our wedding day to focus on our commitment to each other as partners. I suggested Lily could be our flower girl and have a small special moment during the reception instead, but that the ceremony itself should be about our vows to each other. Melissa got extremely upset, saying I'm rejecting her daughter and that they come as a package deal. She said if I truly loved Lily, I would want to make her feel included and important on our big day. She's now threatening to call off the wedding if I don't agree to her plans. I tried explaining that I'm not rejecting Lily. I already am involved in her life, help with school projects, attend her recitals, and have even started coaching her soccer team. I just want one day that's about Melissa and me as a couple. I'm not adopting Lily, her father would never allow it, and I feel uncomfortable essentially taking father-like vows to her when she has an active dad in her life. AITA for wanting my wedding ceremony to focus on my relationship with my fiancé rather than including her daughter in every aspect.
AITA for ruining my parents' vow renewal by wearing white even though my mom said I could. I, 27F, attended my parents' 30th anniversary vow renewal ceremony last weekend. 3 months ago, while dress shopping with my mom, 58F, I found a gorgeous cream-colored dress I loved. When I asked if it would be okay to wear, Mom enthusiastically said, "Of course, sweetie. It's not like it's a real wedding and you look beautiful in it." I bought the dress and didn't think anything more of it. The day before the ceremony, my mom mentioned needing to make last-minute changes to some floral arrangements because the venue had a mix-up. I offered to help, but she assured me everything was handled. At the ceremony, I noticed people giving me strange looks. During the reception, my aunt pulled me aside and berated me for trying to upstage my own mother on her special day. Confused, I explained that Mom approved my dress months ago. That's when I discovered the truth. My mom had originally planned to wear a blue dress, but changed her mind 2 months ago and bought a cream-colored gown nearly identical to mine. She never told me about the change and apparently complained to the entire family that I was copying her and trying to steal her spotlight. When confronted, Mom burst into tears, saying she didn't want to hurt my feelings by asking me to change my dress, but that I should have known better than to wear cream to a vow renewal. My dad is furious with me for ruining their special day, and several relatives have sent nasty messages accusing me of being attention-seeking. AITA for wearing a dress my mom explicitly approved, not knowing she had secretly changed her own outfit to something similar.
AITA for not letting my wife's family bulldoze our child-free boundaries. My wife, 34F, and I, 36M, are happily child-free by choice. We've been clear about this with family from day one, and we don't keep our house child-friendly. We have expensive art, breakable collectibles, and zero childproofing. My wife's sister, Amber, 30F, has 3 kids under 7 and constantly makes passive-aggressive comments about our lifestyle being selfish. For years, family gatherings have been at her house because it's easier with the kids, which we've never complained about. Last weekend, we hosted my wife's parents' 40th anniversary dinner at our home. We specified adults only on the invitations and arranged for a babysitter at a nearby hotel suite where the kids could play and have pizza. We even paid for it ourselves. The day of the dinner, Amber showed up with all 3 kids in tow. When I met them at the door and reminded her about the babysitter, she laughed and said, "The kids were so excited to finally see your house. They'll be good, I promise." I firmly told her our house isn't child safe and the babysitter was waiting. She tried to push past me, saying I was being ridiculous. I blocked the doorway and told her she had 2 choices: take the kids to the babysitter as planned or leave. She caused a scene on her front lawn, crying that I was excluding family and treating her children like they're unwanted. My in-laws arrived mid-argument and are now furious with me, saying I embarrassed everyone and should have just let it go for one night. My wife supports me, but now her entire family is calling me controlling and saying our boundaries are hostile to family values. AITA for enforcing our child-free house rule, even for a special occasion. AITA for refusing to delete my deceased wife's voicemail greeting from our home phone. My wife passed away from cancer 8 months ago. We were married for 22 years and have 2 adult children, 24M and 21F. The grief has been overwhelming, but we're slowly learning to live with it. One thing I've kept unchanged is our home phone's voicemail greeting, which still has my late wife's voice saying, "Hi, you've reached the Andersons. We can't come to the phone right now, but leave a message and we'll call you back." Hearing her voice brings me comfort. Sometimes when I'm having a particularly rough day, I'll call my own number just to hear her speak. Our children have mentioned that they find it comforting too. Last week, my mother-in-law visited and became upset when she called from her hotel and heard my wife's voice on the greeting. She demanded I change it immediately, saying it's morbid and preventing everyone from moving on. She said hearing her daughter's voice unexpectedly was traumatic for her. I understand her pain, but I refuse to change it. This is my home, and this small connection to my wife's voice helps me cope. I suggested my mother-in-law text instead of calling if it bothers her that much. She left in tears and has now rallied several family members to her side. They're saying I'm being insensitive to others' grief by preserving a shrine to my wife instead of moving forward. My brother-in-law even suggested I'm using the voicemail as an excuse to wallow in grief. AITA for keeping my deceased wife's voice on our answering machine despite my mother-in-law's distress. AITA for sabotaging my ex's wedding by showing my son's text messages to his new bride. My ex-husband Jake, 42M, and I, 40F, divorced 5 years ago when I discovered his affair with Megan, 32F, who is now his fiancée. We have 2 children together, a son 17M and daughter 15F. After the divorce, Jake moved in with Megan and has consistently prioritized his new relationship over our kids. He cancels visitations last minute for trips with Megan, forgets school events, and has missed multiple birthdays. Our son has been particularly hurt by this and recently stopped going to Jake's house altogether. Last weekend was Jake and Megan's wedding. Our kids were invited and given roles in the ceremony, despite Jake barely speaking to our son in months. My son didn't want to go, but finally agreed after Jake promised to start rebuilding their relationship and scheduled a father-son weekend for next month. The night before the wedding, my son showed me text messages from Jake saying he needed to cancel their planned weekend because Megan had surprised him with concert tickets for her and her friends on those dates. He told our son, "We can reschedule for sometime next year. This is really important to Megan." My son was devastated but still planned to attend the wedding to avoid drama. I was furious. When I dropped the kids off at the venue, I saw Megan alone and impulsively showed her the text messages, asking if she knew Jake was using her as an excuse to bail on his son again. She was shocked and confronted Jake, causing a huge scene right before the ceremony. The wedding still happened, but Jake is now blaming me for trying to ruin his special day and turning Megan against him. Even my daughter thinks I should have stayed out of it. AITA for showing those messages to the bride.
AITA for telling my pregnant coworker that her natural birth plan is unrealistic. I, 34F, am an OBGYN nurse with 12 years of experience in labor and delivery. My coworker, Jenna, 28F, is pregnant with her first child and is due in 2 months. Yesterday at lunch, Jenna was excitedly telling everyone about her extremely detailed birth plan. She wants a completely unmedicated birth with no interventions whatsoever, no epidural, no continuous monitoring, no IV fluids, no cervical checks, and she plans to labor in various positions, including a birthing pool. This would be perfectly fine, except she kept saying things like, "I refuse to be one of those women who gives in to the pain," and "women have been giving birth naturally for thousands of years before all these unnecessary medical interventions." After listening to her criticize weak mothers who get epidurals for 20 minutes, I finally said, "Jenna, your plan sounds nice in theory, but as someone who's assisted in hundreds of births, I think you should be prepared for things not going according to plan. Birth is unpredictable, and there's no shame in changing your mind about pain management or needing interventions." She got very upset and said I was being unsupportive and negative. She accused me of trying to medicalize her birth experience and said I've been brainwashed by the medical establishment to think women can't birth naturally. Now, several coworkers are saying I should have kept my opinions to myself and let her have her moment. One even suggested I'm jealous because Jenna is focused on having the perfect birth, and I'm trying to discourage her. AITA for giving a reality check to my coworker about her rigid birth plan based on my professional experience.
AITA for canceling our family vacation after discovering my 16-year-old has been secretly living at his girlfriend's house for weeks. I'm a single dad, 42M, to two teenagers, 16M, 14F. I work long hours as a hospital administrator to provide for us, which means I'm not always home for dinner, but I've always trusted my kids to be responsible. 3 days ago, I took a rare day off to surprise my son with tickets to a concert he wanted to attend. When I went to his school to pick him up early, they informed me he hadn't been to school in nearly 3 weeks. They'd been calling my cell phone about absences, but the calls were being intercepted. I rushed home and discovered my son had created a call forwarding system to redirect school calls to his phone. When confronted, he admitted he's been living at his girlfriend's house for the past month, only coming home when he knew I'd be there. My daughter knew but was sworn to secrecy. Apparently, his girlfriend's parents worked night shifts, so they had no idea he was staying over every night. He's been using my credit card, which he has for emergencies, to order food delivery and buy things for himself and his girlfriend. I was beyond furious. We had a family vacation planned for next week during spring break, a cruise that's been paid for since last year. I told both kids the vacation is canceled as punishment, and the money will now go toward family therapy instead. My son says I'm overreacting and that I'm never home anyway, so I shouldn't care where he sleeps. My daughter, who didn't do anything wrong besides keeping her brother's secret, is devastated about missing the cruise and says I'm punishing her unfairly. AITA for canceling a vacation we've all been looking forward to over my son's deception?
AITA for ruining my sister's wedding by wearing a white dress that wasn't actually white. I, 28F, have a rare condition called achromatopsia, complete color blindness. I see everything in shades of gray. This has caused issues throughout my life, but never like this. My sister, 30F, got married last weekend. For her wedding, I bought what I thought was a pale blue dress. I had the salesperson confirm it wasn't white and even showed a picture to my roommate who agreed it was light blue. At the wedding, my sister had a complete meltdown when she saw me. She started screaming that I was trying to upstage her by wearing white. I tried explaining that the dress was blue and about my condition, but she wouldn't listen. Her new husband tried to calm her down, explaining that the dress was indeed blue, but she was inconsolable. She kicked me out of the wedding, and now half my family is blowing up my phone saying I ruined her big day. Apparently, in certain lighting, the pale blue looked almost white, and there are photos where it appears whitish. My parents are split. Dad says my sister overreacted. Mom says I should have been more careful knowing my condition. I've offered to have the photos edited to make my dress appear more obviously blue, but my sister isn't speaking to me. She's telling everyone I deliberately wore white to her wedding. AITA for accidentally wearing a dress that could appear white in certain lighting because I literally cannot see color. Edit, several people have asked why I don't just use color identifying apps. I do, but I was in a rush that morning and forgot to double check the dress. Also, the dress was labeled powder blue at the store.